Alright, so we know that not all games get combat right, but when they do, when every parry, strike, and dodge feels precise, you remember it. This video is all about those moments. These are 20 combat masterpieces that every gamer needs to experience. Let's dive in. Black myth Wukong takes traditional Chinese mythology and fuses it with fast-paced, weighty combat that immediately feels distinct. The game's staff-based fighting system is sharp and versatile, letting you chain together light and heavy attacks, transform mid-battle, and respond dynamically to enemy patterns. It feels like a next-gen evolution of action RPGs, polished animations, responsive controls, and enemy design that doesn't just challenge your reflexes, but your adaptability. What stands out most is how it never overwhelms with complexity, yet still rewards experimentation and timing. Boss battles feel like martial arts showdowns with divine monsters, blending magic, dodging, and melee skill into one fluid encounter. There's also a rhythm to it, like learning a dance you can't fake your way through. The world, art direction, and combat come together to make Wukong more than just a Souls-like. It's shaping up to be something uniquely unforgettable. Sekiro doesn't offer choices in combat. It demands mastery. It's not about grinding for better gear or overwhelming enemies with flashy combos. Instead, it's about understanding the rhythm of combat down to the tiniest frame, reading animations, and punishing mistakes with cold precision. Every sword clash is a duel of patience and reflexes, and the posture system turns every encounter into a mental game where you break your opponent's guard before they break yours. When you land that final death blow, it feels earned. Earned through dozens of failures, split-second deflections, and well-timed counters. Unlike most action games, you don't get away with button mashing or mindless aggression. It punishes hesitation, but rewards persistence and observation. You learn enemy patterns the hard way, but when it clicks, the flow of battle becomes almost meditative. Few games make a single parry feel this impactful. It's punishing, yes, but the payoff is pure satisfaction. The first Berserker Khazan is a brutal, stylish action RPG with a visceral approach to combat that makes you feel every slash, stomp, and punch. What sets it apart is the sheer aggression embedded in its animations. The attacks are heavy, messy, and full of rage, yet they never feel clunky. The movement is fluid, allowing for dodge rolls and repositioning that give every fight a dynamic flow, while the combo system is designed to push you toward relentless offense. There's a unique charm in how grounded and savage everything feels. Enemies don't just fall over, they're demolished. Blood flies, limbs break, and each encounter feels like a desperate clash rather than a choreographed ballet. It captures that dark fantasy tone with grotesque enemy design, moody lighting, and a protagonist who looks like he's been through hell and isn't finished yet. If you enjoy combat that feels raw and unfiltered, Khazan is a beast worth taming. Ghost of Tsushima delivers one of the most immersive melee combat systems in an open-world setting. It strikes a perfect balance between realism and stylization, allowing you to feel like a deadly samurai without turning every fight into a fantasy. Stance switching plays a huge role here. Each stance is tailored to a specific enemy type, and mastering them is the key to controlling the battlefield. Perfect parries, precision strikes, and the sheer elegance of one-hit duels add a level of artistry that few action games manage. What elevates it is how smooth everything feels. You flow from enemy to enemy with a sense of purpose, and even after dozens of encounters, slicing through a group of bandits never loses its thrill. The game respects the weight of every sword swing, and each enemy encounter feels handcrafted rather than disposable. It's one of those games where you start every fight wanting to win, and end it wanting to do it again. Sifu doesn't just test your skill, it tests your ability to learn, adapt, and refine every mistake into mastery. Its martial arts combat system is built around timing, spatial awareness, and momentum. You're not just fighting enemies, you're managing the room, predicting attacks, and punishing openings with devastating combos. What makes it special is how tightly it all flows. The animations are clean, the transitions between attacks are seamless, and when you string together dodges, parries, and knockdowns, it looks like something out of a well-choreographed kung fu film. But underneath the visual flair is a punishing system where one wrong move can age your character closer to death. The aging mechanic isn't just a gimmick, it changes how you play and how you value every life. It forces you to approach combat with care and patience. Sifu makes you feel vulnerable, but when you finally get through a level without dying, the sense of growth is real, like you actually got better, not just stronger. Nine Souls brings together the precision of Sekiro and the elegance of 2D action in a world that feels both ancient and futuristic. Its combat hinges on tight deflection mechanics where timing is everything. Mistime it, and you're punished immediately. What makes it stand out is how every enemy encounter feels like a small boss fight. You're never just slashing wildly. You wait, bait an attack, parry it with pixel-perfect timing, then counter with a flurry of strikes. The flow is tense but rewarding. Enemies are aggressive but never unfair, and when you get into the rhythm, the game opens up like a puzzle you learn through repetition. There's also a great deal of character personality built into the movement and combat style, with animations that feel handcrafted rather than procedural. Combine that with its unique aesthetic and world design, and Nine Souls carves out its own space in the action genre with confidence and precision. Elden Ring doesn't just feature great combat, it gives you the freedom to shape it however you want. You can go in with twin blades and flip across enemies, ride into battle with a halberd on horseback, or summon spirits while wielding a colossal sword that swings slower than your internet on a bad day. But no matter how you build your character, combat always demands attention and timing. It's not mindless. You learn patterns, watch for openings, and adapt constantly. The sheer variety in weapons and magic is staggering, and each feels like it belongs in a completely different play style. Boss fights are chaotic yet tightly designed, and the stamina-based system still makes every dodge and hit feel like a decision. What's most impressive is how From Software makes the world feel dangerous even dozens of hours in. You're never truly untouchable. That tension keeps every encounter engaging, even if you're over-leveled or well-equipped. Ragnarok builds on the groundwork laid by its predecessor and evolves it into a much more refined combat experience. Switching between weapons mid-fight feels fluid, whether you're freezing enemies with the Leviathan Axe or lighting them up with the Blades of Chaos. Every hit connects with a satisfying crunch, and the game isn't shy about throwing different enemy types at you to keep things interesting. What stands out is the layered nature of combat. There's always more to discover. You might start by spamming basic combos, but the game keeps encouraging deeper mechanics like shield parries, runic attacks, and synergy between Kratos and Atreus. As you unlock new abilities, the combat grows wider rather than just stronger. Boss fights feel cinematic but mechanically tight, and even smaller enemy groups can overwhelm you if you stop paying attention. Ragnarok doesn't just give you power, it asks you to wield it smartly and decisively. Arkham Knight perfects a combat system that many games still try to replicate. It's all about rhythm, awareness, and counterplay. You're constantly moving, bouncing between enemies, using gadgets, and watching for that telltale flash that signals a counter. But what makes the Arkham combat shine is how intuitive it becomes over time. You're not memorizing move lists, you're responding to stimuli, improvising mid-fight, and making use of the environment. The game adds layers through fear takedowns, gadget interrupts, and multi-type enemies that require different tactics. When you're in full flow, gliding into a fight, disabling weapons, and dropping a smoke bomb to vanish, it's as close as a game has come to actually being the character you're playing. Every fight feels like a statement of control, and the game's polish makes it easy to engage with while still offering room for mastery. It's iconic for a reason. Jedi Survivor is the Star Wars power fantasy done right, with a combat system that finally makes wielding a lightsaber feel deadly and precise. What's immediately noticeable is the stance system. It lets you approach each battle with different strategies, from dual-wielding chaos to heavy, deliberate strikes. Parrying, dodging, and mixing in force powers creates this layered flow that keeps every encounter interesting. You're not just slashing, you're managing distance, reading your opponent, and knowing when to unleash a push or freeze ability for tactical advantage. Boss fights are the highlight, often demanding precision and real focus, especially in higher difficulties. The enemy AI is smart enough to force you out of lazy habits, and the combat animations are polished to the point where even watching a failed fight feels cinematic. It doesn't just look cool, it plays with depth and intention.
Just more to go. Advance! That's you on its own.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth blends real-time action with classic turn-based strategy in a way that feels surprisingly fluid. The active time battle system allows you to pause time just long enough to cue powerful abilities or spells, then return to real-time combat without ever breaking the flow. Each character plays differently. Cloud's heavy sword strikes feel solid and direct, while Aerith fights from a distance with magical precision. What's especially impressive is how Rebirth balances spectacle with control. You're constantly switching between party members to chain abilities, manage stagger meters, and keep enemies in check. Combat doesn't overwhelm you with options, but invites experimentation and rewards synergy. Visually, it's one of the most polished systems out there. Summons, limit breaks, and enemy attacks all feel impactful without sacrificing clarity. It's not just about damage, it's about rhythm, reaction, and smart resource use. Few games manage to feel this stylish and strategic at the same time. Shadow of Mordor introduced a combat system that became a blueprint for open-world melee action. It's fast, reactive, and always focused on momentum. Strikes, counters, dodges, and finishers chain together seamlessly, letting you take on dozens of orcs while still feeling like you're in complete control. But it's not just the mechanics, it's the way combat integrates with the Nemesis system that elevates the whole experience. Enemies remember your tactics, react to your choices, and evolve into mini-bosses with their own strengths and fears. That means every encounter feels personal and earned. The animation quality, brutal takedowns, and dynamic targeting all help combat feel alive and responsive. Even when things get chaotic, you never feel like you're just mashing buttons. You're dancing through a battlefield, reading cues and maintaining the flow. It's a system that rewards both precision and aggression, and few open-world games since have matched its combat energy. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is unhinged in the best possible way. It ditches stealth for over-the-top, high-speed sword play and commits completely to its identity. The blade mode mechanic lets you slow time and slice enemies with surgical precision, cutting through limbs, armor, or even helicopters like butter. The parry system isn't just a defensive tool, it's essential to survival, and once mastered, turns battles into kinetic showcases of timing and brutality. The bosses are loud, aggressive, and mechanically distinct, each pushing you to learn new patterns and exploit openings. There's no filler here, every fight wants your full attention. The soundtrack dynamically matches your intensity, pushing every confrontation to feel like a final showdown. While it may look chaotic, Revengeance actually rewards discipline and situational awareness more than people realize. It's a game where style is baked into the mechanics, not layered on top. The result is pure, satisfying action from start to finish.
Use blade mode to take down those heavy missiles.
Ghostrunner 2 refines everything that made the original so addictive and makes the whole experience even sharper. It's a game where one hit kills you, but instead of frustration, you feel challenged to perfect every movement. Combat here is all about speed and precision. You're wall running, grappling, sliding, and slicing enemies before they can even react. What's truly impressive is how smooth the controls feel even in the most chaotic encounters. Every death teaches you something. The second you respawn, you're already planning your next route or adjusting your timing. It demands focus but rewards momentum. You have tools, shurikens, energy abilities, a motorcycle in some levels, but the katana remains your main method of engagement, and it feels incredible. The combination of fast-paced parkour and one-hit combat makes it a unique experience where the map is your weapon as much as your blade. Every kill feels earned, not because it's hard, but because it's clean. Stellar Blade blends tight combat mechanics with a strong visual presentation, but it never sacrifices precision for style. Every enemy encounter feels deliberate, especially in higher difficulties where you're constantly managing stamina, dodges, and perfect parries. The game encourages you to stay aggressive while reading enemy patterns closely. You're rewarded not just for hitting hard, but for reacting with perfect timing. The animation quality is exceptional, attacks transition fluidly, and every weapon swing has weight behind it. Bosses are a major highlight, often requiring memorization and strategic countering rather than brute force. There's a sense of elegance to how Stellar Blade handles combat. It's less about overwhelming you with options and more about mastering the tools you're given. Enemy variety keeps the loop engaging, forcing you to adapt your approach constantly. It's a satisfying system that feels personal and deliberate, where victory always comes from skill rather than stats or gimmicks. Sleeping Dogs delivers some of the most underrated hand-to-hand combat in open-world gaming. It's raw, responsive, and heavily inspired by classic kung fu cinema. The fights are tight and brutal, with a counter system that encourages you to stay alert without breaking the momentum. Combos are fluid and easy to grasp, but offer enough depth to reward mastery. The environmental takedowns stand out. Grabbing an enemy and slamming them into a spinning fan or a hot stove is not only cinematic, but also strategic. The game knows how to make every fight feel personal, especially in the later missions where larger mobs come after you. The audio design, animation work, and impact of each punch make you feel every hit. What makes it special is how grounded it is. You're not a superhero, you're just really, really good at hurting people when the situation demands it. For a crime drama wrapped in neon-soaked streets, this game absolutely nails the feeling of street-level combat. All right, I included this game not because it's a popular internet pick, but because I genuinely loved it. Kena Bridge of Spirits might look like a gentle animated adventure at first glance, but beneath that beautiful exterior lies a surprisingly refined and rewarding combat system. The game blends smooth staff-based melee with satisfying ranged attacks through Kena's Spirit Bow, and while it starts out accessible, the combat grows in depth as new abilities are unlocked. What really makes it click is its rhythm. Quick combos, heavy strikes, timed dodges, and perfectly placed parries all come together naturally. And then there's the Rot, adorable little companions who add a clever strategic layer, allowing you to stun enemies, shield yourself, or power up your attacks mid-fight. The difficulty ramps up just enough to keep you engaged, especially during boss encounters, which are more than just endurance tests. They're skill checks that challenge everything you've picked up along the way. With clean animations, responsive controls, and a strong connection between mechanics and story, Kena delivers a combat experience that's both elegant and impactful. It surprised me, and it earned its place here. Lies of P takes clear inspiration from the Soulsborne formula, but brings its own sense of identity through precise, aggressive combat and a hauntingly beautiful world. Every enemy encounter feels deliberate, and the timing-based guard system demands you stay fully engaged. You're not just blocking, you're deflecting at the last moment to build stagger damage and turn the fight in your favor. The weapon crafting system lets you mix and match blades and handles, letting you personalize how each strike feels. Bosses are fierce, often pushing you to the edge with tricky patterns and tight windows for damage. But even regular enemies can surprise you if you get careless. There's no coasting through this one. Every fight keeps you on alert. The game also handles pacing well, giving you time to explore and breathe between major battles. Lies of P respects the genre's roots, but proves it can stand confidently on its own, with crisp, punishing, and rewarding combat. Rise of the Ronin combines the discipline of traditional samurai combat with the flexibility of modern open-world systems. You're not just swinging swords, you're adapting stances, using rifles, and reading opponents who don't go down easily. The combat rewards patience, but not passivity. Every strike has intention, and mistiming your blocks or overextending your combos can leave you wide open. The stance system adds a thoughtful layer of strategy, encouraging you to study your enemies and switch tactics mid-fight. It's not about memorizing complex combos, it's about adapting, surviving, and then dominating once you find your rhythm. The world around you plays into this as well, with terrain and elevation offering tactical advantages. Combat is fast but measured, and there's a real satisfaction in outdueling a powerful foe after a tense back and forth. Rise of the Ronin doesn't reinvent the genre, but it refines it with enough depth and polish to keep battles gripping from start to finish.
I know you better than anyone.
Nier Automata blends fast-paced hack-and-slash combat with thoughtful storytelling and a haunting atmosphere. You control androids in a war-torn future, and the way they fight is both mechanical and elegant. The controls are tight, and the pace of combat is lightning fast, but not overwhelming. You can swap weapons mid-combo, dodge with pinpoint accuracy, and launch into aerial attacks with barely a pause in rhythm. The game also integrates bullet hell mechanics, forcing you to think in more than one direction at once. What's unique is how the combat is layered into the narrative. Every move has weight, and the variety in gameplay styles keeps things constantly evolving. From quick melee skirmishes to giant boss fights that shift perspectives, the game never lets combat become predictable. It's not just satisfying to play, it's emotionally resonant. Few action games manage to feel this clean, this sharp, and still carry so much meaning behind every battle. And that's it for today, guys. Every game on this list has one thing in common: combat that feels good. Not just flashy, but responsive, satisfying, and memorable. If you've played any of these, let me know your favorite. And if you've missed a few, well, you know what to do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.